Well, since the Sixers don't seem interested in giving us one of those final spots that final spot on the roster to fill out the spot for training camp and, of course, the regular season.
They have not officially told me no.
They haven't
I'm
yet?
keeping hope alive.
Still? Okay, well.
I'm officially telling you no that it's not happening. How about that?
He doesn't hit the
Kyle
requirement.
Dream Killer Neubeck.
Oh, the height requirement comes into play here for Derek Bodner. As we begin the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Wednesday, welcome. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. None of us have a 10-day contract or a vet minimum for the 76ers right now. Neither does Bree. Maybe she'll have some better hope than we have. Maybe all of you out there joining in the chat for the show. Well, that means we got to turn our attention to somebody else who was a big star of the Olympics and certainly for a team. France had a big highlight over LeBron James. We'll get to that in a little bit. And also was a former draft pick of the Boston Celtics. We're going to talk about Guerschon Yabusele, the dancing bear.
Yes,
the dancing bear.
Tomato.
Should he be an out-of-the-box here kind of target for the Philadelphia 76ers? We've thrown so many names. We've talked about Davis Bertans, Marcus Morris, and so many others now that the roster's pretty much complete, but you still want to have somebody serviceable. And maybe you didn't expect to see what you saw from Yabusele in the Olympics, and especially in the final two games, certainly against Team USA in the gold medal game. But had a lot of people talking, a lot of people buzzing, just wondering, why is this guy not in the NBA right now? Why is he not playing for a team currently in the NBA? His skill set seems like it could translate to the NBA. Well, he's without an NBA team. He's playing overseas, and we have a lot to get into with that. But the main question to start off is, number one, should they go after him? And number two, would he be able to fit within a Nick Nurse style of offense and on the defensive end as well? Would it make sense for a player like that out of the box instead of going to the usual suspects that we've been talking about? And many of you in the chat have said just that. Stop saying the same old names. Well, Kyle, this is a totally different name when we talk about Yabusele because many people haven't seen him since the last time he was in the NBA.
Yes.
Until he showed up in this Olympics.
First of all, I see Eugene in the chat saying that he's 6'10" and deserves a 10-day. I think you've forgotten that we met recently, Eugene, and I can confirm. I won't say how tall or short you are. You're definitely not 6'10". So, unfortunately, Eugene Ross, you will be on the outside looking in for my current roster requirements. Yabusele, a lot of you watched him in the Olympics along with us. Part of the reason that France was able to go from, I think they had a disappointing start to the tournament and then finished strong. They played really well in the elimination rounds or the knockout rounds, was because they went away from the Twin Tower, Rudy Gobert, Wembanyama look and played smaller. And part of the reason they were able to have success is that Yabusele, next to Wembanyama, was that activity, energy, front court player, like grabbed a lot of rebounds, was crashing the offensive glass, has been able to shoot the three well in every setting other than the NBA, basically. And that is kind of the problem with him. When the Celtics drafted him, the league was in a place where it was the Warriors at their peak, and a lot of people, on top of looking for the next Steph, were looking for the next Draymond Green, a guy who could be a five-position switchable defender, undersized but athletic enough to move in space and make up for what they lack in pure rim protection as a switch guy, a one-on-one defender in certain instances. And when Yabusele came out in the draft, a lot of people were referring to him as French Draymond, saying, oh, this is the next guy. And that didn't end up working out because, one, he was not as good defensively as Draymond Green is, not really anywhere close at that point. Two, he wasn't playing with Steph Curry, and so not having Steph as a pick-and-roll type partner it put a lot more focus on, does he shoot? Can he shoot? Can he be a reliable outside threat to open up the floor so that he can do some of the playmaking off the dribble, the stuff that you want to see Draymond, a version of Draymond do. I shouldn't say Draymond, in handoffs and things of that nature. He only got 2 years in the league because he couldn't shoot. And frankly, I don't think he was in the best physical condition at that point. Was a big thing. Like, if part of if your sales pitch is, we need this guy to be that undersized front court player who can switch across matchups, they have to be in elite shape. They have to be strong as hell because you got to be able to hold up in the post. got to be able to step out and guard 2s and 3s on the perimeter, 2s, 3s, and 4s, I would say. If you can get down to 1, we've talked about it on the show, there might be like 5 guys in the league who are true 5-position defenders on a consistent basis. He was nowhere close to guarding basically anyone when he was in the league. And I think what you saw in the Olympics is the experience and the time overseas as his body has matured, as he has probably matured as a person and as a professional. I thought he looked like he was in excellent shape. I thought that translated to...
He looked like a totally different player.
Yes. When he was crashing the glass, it wasn't just like, I'm stronger than you. A lot of times he's going around people and beating them with speed and then using that quick burst, that power to get to the ball and finish. And so that was a big change. But for me, if you're talking about whether he can make the jump back to the league, it's all about the three-point shot. He has been over like a decade in Europe, which is crazy to think about the before and after playing with the Celtics. He's been a 40% shooter for most of that time. Now, fair to say, hasn't done it at the NBA level, at the NBA line. How much does that matter? And how much does the added years of experience, the increased volume, or I guess not increased volume, his volume has only been okay for most of that career overseas. Do you believe in him as a shooter? Because if you do, then I think you can find a place for him. He can play next to not just Joel Embiid, but any kind of modern center. Even an Andre Drummond. If Drummond is the guy inside and Yabu can space the floor, great, because then you also get all the activity, all the energy, the athleticism, all that stuff. If he doesn't shoot, you don't see the path. And so that's the $1 million question that not just the Sixers, but any other team would have to answer.
Yeah, I think Kyle hit on the 2 main points in terms of him translating to the NBA. First of all, dropping weight. There were reports that he was above 300 early on in his Celtics career.
And he did not carry it well.
And he looks much better here that we saw over the last couple of weeks. And then the 3-point shot. He shot 32% each of his 2 years in Boston. It's on low sample, but that is a key for him translating as well. It's always been if he can put everything together, because he's really aware defensively and versatile defensively in ways that were impressive even with the Celtics. And you were just waiting for the rest of it to come along. So if that shot is legitimate, and with him being in better shape, because he was kind of, you looked at him and said, man, if he drops 20, 30 pounds, he could be really athletic for his size. And I think now you saw that in the Olympics. So I think some teams should take a chance on him, even with the relatively high buyout. And obviously, a month ago, his buyout was only $1 million. That was a lot easier to navigate. Now it's up to $2.5 million, according to Mark Stein. That is a little bit tougher to navigate, but crucially, that is pretty much impossible for the Sixers to navigate because, as we've mentioned a bunch, they only have minimum contracts to offer from here on out. They can pay up to, I believe it is $850,000 of that buyout themselves without accounting it against the salary cap.
So that brings it down to 1.6-ish in that territory.
They can only offer a minimum contract. You're talking I think it's like a $2.2, $2.3 million for someone with 2 years of service time. He would be playing for well below the league minimum. I don't think he would do that. So I think another team should probably take a chance on him, even though the buyout is pretty substantial. It's just unlikely to be the Sixers.
So the thing that impressed me, as you both talked about, you alluded to the weight. And when we saw him in Boston, he was just too big for the profile that was mentioned of the type of player that he is, why he was selected in the first round in the first place. Watching him now, lower weight, putting the ball on the floor. I thought that was big at that size. Gene asked us what's his measurables. At least right now it's listed on one of the main sites at 6'8", 260. So 6'8", 260, but still to be able to move that way, to put the ball on the floor the way that he was, going downhill with control, by the way. And with that control and the way that he was out there dribbling the basketball, hitting those outside shots when the ball swung to him off the bounce, taking those jumpers as well. You saw where that versatility could be out there with a big guy like Joel Embiid or Andre Drummond at that 5 spot, and how that could translate once again back to this particular style of play in the NBA. So for where he is right now, of the player that he is, since he's evolved and matured as a basketball player overseas since leaving the NBA, the game, the way that it's played right now, might actually favor for what he likes to do. While he's not,
it's definitely tilting more.
He's not a stretch guy like Dirk Nowitzki or anything like that. But with his, he's not. If he's at 260, he's not going down to 240 or 230. He's a big guy. He's gonna have a big frame. So
he's right now. Look, I mean, just eyeballing it, looking at his build, his dimensions. I think he's basically at ideal weight, right? And like I think that translated to the games, right? He's able to do what you want out of that style of player on the Olympic stage. So I mean, I think if he maintains that, then that's about perfect.
And then the other part that you look at it is we've talked so much about how these players play so hard for their national teams. Is that going to then come to the NBA? Is he going to continue to play? He's not going to have the minutes to play and show it that way. But out there, is he going to be the guy that's willing to do all the little things that he needs to do as a 8th, 9th, 10th man on a team? First of all, he's got to earn that. And then the 11, 12, where he really has to fight for some time on the floor, is he going to be okay with that, especially for the money that Derek and Kyle have talked about of what he would actually have to take in order to come to the NBA? Is he going to be good with that? He's talked about, and I guess we can throw up the first graphic of him talking about wanting to be back in the NBA. And he says on his Twitter account, been waiting for a second chance. I'm ready with the Ben Simmons, let's go emoji there with the dancing bear there at the very end. But with that part, again, you're going to have to accept a role too, or come in knowing that you're going to be on the bottom and you're going to have to earn that right to get back up to the top. And what are you really going to get financially, as Derek and Kyle have laid out the numbers? What are you really going to get financially?
Sick over this.
So if you're going to come in here and he's sick of it, right, and he's not happy with the money that's being thrown at him, how much time is he going to continue to let go by? Because the Olympics are only every 4 years, and you might have the FIBAs where you have to go the 1 year or 2 years in between, like we discussed on yesterday's show. He's got to strike when the iron is hot, man. Everybody's talking about him. Go out there, and easy for me to say because I'm not making the money that he's making over there, and I'm certainly not going to make the league minimum that he's going to make coming here into the NBA. But he is hot right now, and I just wonder if he should really, Kyle, just for your NBA career, for your NBA life at your age and how it didn't work out before, should you just go ahead? He's 28. He'll be 29 once the season at some point, gets underway. He's going to be 29. When is he going to have that other opportunity to do so?
Well, so here's what I would say. I don't disagree with what Derek said. I think it's an unrealistic possibility if I had to guess. Here's the counter argument because of what you're saying, Devon. This is his chance to be like, look, his name is hot, as you're saying right now, coming off of that Olympics. This is his opportunity, even if it's on a minimum, if it's on slightly above the minimum. I don't know if there's anybody left that has maybe like the biannual available. They're probably. I'm sure I think the Pistons are the only team that has actual cap space right
Detroit
now.
basketball.
So there are not teams that have an abundance of money. So if I'm him and I'm his agent, you say the upside in looking good in an NBA role this season is far higher than if I simply go back to Real Madrid where he's signed and would need to be bought out from, and have another stellar season there, right? Like if he has another good year there, nobody's next summer giving him like the full mid-level, right? Like maybe he gets a little bit of extra change on top of the minimum, but he's not, in my estimation, it's not like he's been like multi-time EuroLeague MVP or any. He has not been that level of achiever in Europe. And so you come here, you play in an NBA rotation, you have a good season, you prove that you can shoot, and then next summer maybe you can get a bigger deal in the NBA. And it certainly seems like we see in the tweet, he is motivated to get back here and play on what is clearly the biggest professional stage and the best league in the world in the NBA.
And you mentioned that was 2016, man.
It's a while ago. So if he hasn't given up on that, I could see him taking a bit of a hit to come back here, whether he's willing to only play for what amounts to it's under $1 million, right? Yeah. If he were to come to the Sixers specifically or a team to play for the minimum, that's tough. But again, he's been overseas making a good amount of money over there for the last, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years? No. Okay. Let's say five. Last 5 years. Yeah. And he played in Europe. Prior to that was making decent money. So how much is the opportunity worth to him to come here? And then specifically for the Sixers, that's where I get skeptical because I could see him taking a minimum to play and be like, hey, a team, we'll make you the eighth man. Like you'll come here and you will be a rotation guy. You have a real chance to play.
Right.
Coming here, there's no guarantee you're going to play at all. Like you do bring a different skill set, right? You do offer something that maybe the rest of the roster currently does not, and that's appealing. And you're on a high-profile team. You'll be on national TV. You're in a market where if you're good, people notice it more than some of these teams that are in. No offense to Middle America, but like OKC was just first in the West, had the second guy in MVP voting, and they still haven't had a marquee game announced by the NBA yet, right? No Christmas, no opening night. Like there are teams where you will have a lower profile than if you played for the Sixers. So it's a more complicated equation than just like, well, he will only make so much here. But I do think I am skeptical that this would be the destination if he makes the jump over here.
And as far as he goes in general and just making that decision for where he should, maybe if he got some interest from the NBA, I look back to one of my favorite point guards to watch in the league and some in college and all, and Mike James. You remember Mike James played for Phoenix and would play for the Nets and all, and the guy could just flat out score. Yep. And he is a terror overseas and getting these MVPs and such. But when the opportunity presented itself, he would always come back over here because he knew the money was there overseas. So how many times are you going to take advantage of the opportunity when a team invites you to training camp, make the team, and stick around as long as you can until, all right, things go away. You get traded in February and you're released and you have to go do whatever you need to do. But I think of him and how he's established himself, but it was until he just exhausted all of his possibilities in the NBA and just simply figured out, you know what? This is where I'm going to make my money. We talk about a friend of mine, Lynn Greer. Lynn had a chance finally to get his NBA contract, signed a 2-year deal with the Milwaukee Bucks when he came over. But you know what? All right, he played well, hit some shots for the Milwaukee Bucks at that time. And then what did he do? You know what? When they finally made that call of, we're going to throw this much money at you, Lynn was like, you know what? I'm going to go back over there and play and make some money. But exhausting all your possibilities. If you're putting out a tweet like that, but also while you're on fire in the tournament, they're reporting on TV that you're saying you're not chasing the NBA anymore. They're coming
Gotta create some leverage, baby.
You. Exactly right. They have to come after you. I get it. But if you're going to do that, then do it. You know, don't just keep saying it, putting the tweets out there and acting as if you don't want to be there. For the Sixers, it's going to be tough, as the guys just pointed out and laid out. But he would be interesting. Before we go to break, one more question, Derek. I think it was Gene that asked, could he be a stretch five because of his frame? 6'8", 260, the ability to shoot from the perimeter. Could you steal some minutes? I'll just say it like that. Because I agree with you just by seeing your face.
That was the idea when he was drafted,
right, yeah.
I think.
But now, could he still be that 6'8", couple of minutes out there, steal some minutes at the 5?
He offers pretty much no rim protection. You would have to have a real switch-heavy scheme, and I think he could succeed in that scheme. Does he rebound enough? But if those, if you are willing to switch pretty much everything 1 through 5, and if you have enough team rebounding around him, then yeah, I think theoretically he could work. You just have to understand, you've got to design your scheme knowing that he's not going to protect the rim.
Right.
But if he's stretching the floor and he's switching, you can mitigate that.
Yep.
He does have the same wingspan as Draymond, identical 7'1" wingspan.
And he really is. He's a smart, heady defender who sees things real well. I like him on that side quite a bit.
Very interested to see how that plays out.
And I think the roster is more suited this season to play that type of bench style, right? If you get to a spot, whether it's regular season or the playoffs, where we need to throw 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is, of chaos out there. Andre Drummond is not suited for this matchup, or Joel's hurt, whatever it is. Maybe you could get away with it because if you have Yabusele, Paul George, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, or you can mix in Ricky Council, or you can mix in KJ. That's a lot of wing athleticism to surround. So then the rim protection becomes less important. And there are far fewer true centers anymore where you have to worry about, listen, if we play Yabusele, or last year it would have been like Nick Batum, that guy's just going to get posted up for the next 4 or 5 minutes. And one of Yabusele's strengths is quite literally his strength, right? He's a solid dude.
As you say that, it makes me think of when we would see Joel miss time. And sure, they have Andre Drummond right now. So please understand, I'm not using the Andre Drummond piece. I'm just pointing out Joel was out. PJ Tucker would get the start at the 5 for the very reason of that. And that's with Tobias Harris next to him, right? That's not with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And more
right
importantly, further down the rotation is where that starts to fall apart. You could get away with the PJ Tucker at the 5 when you have Melton, you have Tobias, and maybe you have Maxey out and somebody else is in his place. Or you have Harden, who, for his limitations, has been better as a switch guy because he holds up better in those isolation, post-up type situations. But, yeah, when you have guys from, I'd say 2 through 5 who are at least relatively good switch defenders, and I think the Sixers have that, or the opportunity to have that now, then you could see a path where Yabusele does that. I just think, given that Joel's the starting center, they paid cap space, like used cap space to bring in Andre Drummond, the plan is clearly not to play a lot of small ball this year.
Yep. And then don't forget about Bodner.
You draft Bodner and you want to develop him as well.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of sneezing and things going on. And you see Yabusele putting out those that Ben Simmons emoji. He needs to wipe his nose or something, or maybe he's sneezing. And we'll have to tell you about where he goes right after we come back here and talk a little bit more about Yabusele, Sixers, and more right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
And as Devon alluded to, we want to make sure we tell you about Rite Aid, specifically what you can do about fall allergies. Fall allergies can begin as early as August and last into November. The main culprits are ragweed and mold. Other allergens include plants such as sagebush, tumbleweed, and pigweed, dust mites, pet dander, and fur. Allergic reactions occur when your body misidentifies a substance such as pollen as harmful to the body, and then your immune system releases histamines to fight off the allergens. Here's what you can do to get relief during allergy season. Sign up for Rite Aid Rewards emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive email pollen alerts for your area. Use a dehumidifier. Shower frequently. If you wash the pollen and mold spores from your skin and hair, they are less likely to affect you. A key is to shower at night before you go to bed. Check pollen counts on your weather site or app of choice. Keep windows closed and use an air conditioner when possible. And here are some over-the-counter options available to you at your local Rite Aid. There is a nasal rinse to help you flush out your nasal passages. And when symptoms flare up, try the antihistamines that I mentioned earlier. And then 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, try a nasal corticosteroid. If that's still not enough relief,
there's some fall allergies for you. Got a nice little sneeze off camera.
Right next to me. If that's still not enough relief, you can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. Perfectly timed, buddy. I appreciate it.
I just heard you say the word histamines, and I just felt my nose start to tingle. I was like, oh, no.
Is that the worst?
Well, you know who doesn't give me an allergic reaction? My friends at Mint Mobile. Shout out to Ryan Reynolds, who said, Kyle, I've heard you've been getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers. Not just recently, but all your life. Fact check, that is true. So Ryan said to me, Kyle, we have plans at Mint Mobile that are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. You guys know what I asked. What's the catch? There isn't a catch. Mint Mobile secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. No retail stores, no salespeople, not even us. Instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you so you can say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile's here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You know, I feel like for someone in our age, cell phone for quite a long time, so I've been through variations of plans and variations. It's like, hey, by the way, you didn't do anything at all, but we're going to up your fee every single month. And eventually you just get sick of it. I was so happy to hear from Mint Mobile and Ryan Reynolds, who said, I've got something for you. And it's easy to switch, easy to bring your number over, all your contacts, all your information, and then be on that largest 5G network in the country. You guys should join me too to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/Sixers. That's mintmobile.com/Sixers. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Sixers. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan. Only speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Well, speaking of being old, remember back in the day with cell phones when, like, first of all, not all phones supported all bands. So, like, you had to buy an AT&T phone. You had to buy a Verizon phone.
It's so easy. Like, I've had this phone from, we'll say, an unnamed carrier. And I went to Mint and I was just like, look, I want to switch over and have it be as painless as possible. And Mint's like, hit a few buttons and we got you.
You couldn't transport your phone number for a while. It was a wild, but now it's so easy. And
we also had to walk uphill in the snow both ways to get to school and to work. And what was here's a random sidebar related to phones. What was the first phone you had that was like, man, this thing is really cool? Like, do you remember that? The Razor? That was a big one.
The Razor, and then it was the Sidekick.
The Sidekick was it for me. I was the first person I knew that had one.
Yeah.
I begged and begged. I was like, I'll set aside money. I'll help pay for like what. And my parents were like, no.
And you had to show it on your hip too. You could not show it on your hip. Had to.
I was the envy of my high school until like 3 other people got it, and then it was like,
I will absolutely outdork you guys on this one. I had a handspring Treo, which was like it was like a precursor to a smartphone. You could sync it up with all kinds of contacts and calendars.
Oh my! This is a Palm Pilot.
Palm eventually bought it.
That's basically what it is. I'm looking at it right now.
Like back in the day, man.
I remember that. Yeah, that was a big deal, huh? Not like the Sidekick, man.
Just having like a to-do list and like, your calendar on your phone back in the early 2000s, that was a game changer.
Yeah,
I'm trying to drop
Jay
a picture of this.
Hands down the Sidekick.
The Sidekick was it.
Provolone John, same, Devon. Sidekick or the Razor, whichever one it was. Yeah, absolutely. Real Time says the Nokia with the slide case.
The belt clip absolutely was a thing.
Had to show it,
There was a couple years there where you had to have a belt clip.
Had to show it.
Hell no. Belt clip? All right, I'm drawing the line. No way. No shot.
The belt clip.
You want to talk about, they were calling me Officer Kyle with the sunglasses yesterday? That is the ultimate police move. Just having a belt clip for anything.
I still see the belt clips out there, man. I still see some belt clips out there.
Can we show that on the show, Bree, the phone that Derek used? Look at that thing.
Man, I was banging out emails.
Derek thought he was the coolest MFer in all of Emmaus.
Yeah, I had a pen.
You had the pen? Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
We got a stylus. Come on. Any phone that has a stylus, I'm dunking your head in a toilet.
I was playing Risk on my cell phone in the early 2000s. I don't care how dorky it looks. Awesome.
Devon and I are like, man, we felt cool. Derek's like, I was playing board games on my Palm Pilot.
I don't freaking care. Do I look like someone who worries about looking cool? Come on now.
Oh man, Jay said Derek was getting all the ladies with that. That's right, man. Store those numbers in there. Here, put your number in here. Take this pen.
Come on, man.
Belt clip this vile behavior.
We're really going off the rails now. I was just talking with my wife the other day about, do you remember when the Bluetooth headsets first came out, how prevalent those were? And you just referred to it like that. I'd never used one. It was a big dab, just to like clip on your ear.
So I would have people, I would laugh at everybody with those in their ear because they would keep it. So we have, certain ones that we have for us right now.
Yeah.
And you keep this, seems a little more comfortable. I would get frustrated with people just simply standing in line anywhere with the thing stuck on their ear like that because I'm like, what are you doing? If you're not talking
to anybody, now you're Mr. AirPods talking on your phone everywhere.
Yeah, right.
You've become what you hated,
but
Devon.
not that thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. And the people that were my family with one, they would get it.
It went from that was just referred to as your Bluetooth, right? And now Bluetooth is just this like ever-present technology. You know, the guy who effectively invented Bluetooth did not get basically any money for that because I believe he was working for one of the major, it was like Qualcomm or one of the, maybe it was, I don't want to misspeak on that, but he did it he developed it for them. So his net worth is only like, I think it was like $1 to $2 million. I was like, dude, that's like that's like $1 billion invention.
Wow.
Bluetooth.
That's
if you think
crazy.
of how prevalent it is in today's world. Anyway.
And Kyle's right. I do have my AirPod in a lot, whether I'm on the phone or I'm listening to a podcast. I listen to our podcast. I listen to the Eagles podcast, PHLY Eagles, the Phillies, the Flyers, because I don't know as much as the Flyers, so I'm always tuned in when those guys are on until I have to cut it off because we have to start preparing for our show. But yeah, I'm always listening to stuff. Kyle's right. I become that person with a different type of
No, I've always got headphones in.
You know what's even more annoying that I was going to say, my parents, what their version of this was? You remember the Nextel walkie-talkie phones? The beep,
the chirp,
the chirp phones? That was, my parents were early adopters on those. And we would be at like soccer, basketball, baseball, whatever, tournaments and stuff. And they'd just be chirping back.
It's the Birdman call. And you go ahead.
I think of what's the, there's a 3-6 Mafia song that it's like, Juice got, I'll remember it at some point.
Do you remember when I know
it's
how much
Roll
you
With
guys...
It by 3-6 Mafia. Play that
Okay.
at home. They chirp that at the beginning.
I know
of the
how
song.
much you guys love AO. Do you remember when they had the contract with AM1?
Yes.
And they used to do that commercial all the time.
Love the chirp phones,
the
man.
chirp phone.
I never had one, but that was the first, like, oh, man.
The chirp phone. Well, listen, they were hot at the time.
Anyway, that was like 10 minutes of cell phone talk. So
Guerschon
thank you, Mint
Yabusele,
Mobile.
he's hot right now. And, I mean, he should take advantage right now because he even posts this on his social media with the play. Before Steph Curry hit those 4 threes, everybody was buzzing for that game because of this play from Yabusele over LeBron. And look at LeBron looking crazy. They even had LeBron in different memes, like he was breakdancing. You know how they would put them
That
in?
Australian breakdancer, you
Yeah,
see that lady?
She's taking over right now.
Have
but
you seen the
before her,
controversy
LeBron
with
was
her,
in
by
there.
the way?
No.
She basically rigged it to get to the Olympics.
Oh, did she?
Is there was a story that came out. I'm on, like, this is full grab bag show today.
That's all right.
She is a professor who allegedly teaches breakdancing, but now she's under investigation because I believe
By the Olympic Committee?
she was like part of the committee or hired someone on the committee that selected her to go to the Olympics. It's I don't know the full story, but it seems like there's a
Guess what? She had to cheat to get in there because she wasn't very good at the dancing that I saw. You know, so I see why they're coming after her to take a peek at what's going on.
But yes, that was a great dunk. That's like we said on the show the other day. It's the only time other than the Jason Tatum poster in the conference finals between Boston and Cleveland that I've seen someone legitimately dunk on LeBron. There was no doubt left by Yabusele on that one.
And you knew exactly what he was going to do. I didn't know LeBron was the one that was going to slide over to try to take that charge. But he had full steam ahead. He was going for it. And, man, he created himself a nice poster that he continues to show on his Twitter account. So we have a lot more to talk about. that was fun. That segment was brought to you, of course, by Mint Mobile. As we talk so much about all the other phones in the past that got us to this point where you can now have your Mint Mobile phone, watch this show, go back on wherever you get your podcasts and link in and listen to our show, the PHLY Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Union, wherever you go, you can do that courtesy, of course, of Mint Mobile and the new smartphones that we have. When we come back, we got to talk a little bit about a former coach for the Philadelphia 76ers because even though Steve Kerr was the winning head coach.
Speaking of not cool.
Ty Lue. We talked about Eric Spoelstra being on the bench, having their hands in winning. Somebody else is taking some credit. Not Quincy Pondexter.
Is he going to steal somebody else's job?
He's going to steal some joy, though, from some people. We'll tell you who that is on the other side right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Well, guys, it's August. It's hot. You get frustrated. You got a lot of work to do outside. Maybe you spent an hour, 45 minutes on the Papa Shot machine in your office.
No idea who did that.
Trying to beat your high score.
Then they're really hot.
You're sick about not being able to top that high score or even get close. There's always a better way, a chiller way. And then you can choose our friends at Coors Light, because with Coors Light, you're getting an ice cold beer when the mountains turn blue on the bottles and cans, right when they hit that perfect temperature. That was not a fake anecdote. Derek and I actually stayed after work yesterday, beating our heads against the wall.
I had to leave at some
playing
point,
Papa
folks.
Shot. Listen, it was a slow trickle out of super producer Bree, Devon, our wonderful sales staff, other producers were in here. Derek and I were just the lone two standing
I think it
in
helps
here,
for sales, though, because
sweating,
they hear,
cursing,
they're like,
yelling.
we love the energy in that building.
Playing this damn Papa Shot machine and not being able to top the high score that's been set. But look, we do have the top two scores. So at the end of the day, Derek and I can always step back, choose chill, then sit down and enjoy some mountain cold refreshment. So when you choose to rise above it all, choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate Responsibly, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. I absolutely needed an ice cold beer after wearing my I don't wear shirts that are like breathable workout shirts to work. So I'm in these like cotton shirts on the Pop-A-Shot machine, just like sweat dripping off my forehead. It's an ugly scene. So definitely needed a nice, refreshing Coors Light yesterday.
Well, a lot of people are having to choose chill because of what's going on with the baseball team right now. No longer in first place in the entire National League. But that doesn't mean you still shouldn't support your team. And we still do here at PHLY. And as you can see, when we have our wide shot, that we'll have our FOCO behind us, the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes your favorite team's apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. Even when you're mad at your team, you know you have to get ready for the postseason with the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Going to a basketball game or a hockey game in the fall, you got to be ready to show off your love with the team braided friendship bracelets. And we have a lot of our family in here, right? You always talk about we need to be at these games together. Maybe we'll all have those team-friendly branded friendship bracelets ready for the postseason. Whether it's hoodies also, jackets, beachwear for right now, or even overalls, there is something for fans for all of you, almost every occasion during the season. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided some awesome set pieces for us. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description for all non-presale items. Use the promo code PHLY10, and that's for 10% off. All right, Glenn Rivers, we have to talk about
because
the
as
head
we
coach.
Said, and as Mark Zumoff coined, there's only one doctor.
There's only one.
In Philadelphia.
Not if you ask him. Even though he did say that here. He said, look, there's one doctor. And I always found it interesting because rest in peace to Doc Holliday. He was the only one, Derek, that I would be like, yeah, you can call him Doc Holliday. For maybe it was because of the sport or how great he was. I don't know.
And it was a long-established nickname.
It seemed appropriate.
Not that Doc Glenn's wasn't long established, but still, it's different. It's a different sport.
It is. But in this case, Kyle, could you tell us what Rivers said on the Bill Simmons podcast?
Honestly, it's a little more inoffensive than I think people have painted it as. But he said, I pushed Joel to play for the USA. So I was part of that when I was there. And basically, somehow all roads always lead back through Doc Rivers. He's the catalyst for everything good that has happened. And when things go wrong, well, of course it wasn't Doc's fault, right? Like, of course it was the player, or it was a general manager didn't do what he wanted to. I think it's not that the comments themselves were inflammatory, right? Like, and I can see why Doc would say to Joel, hey, you should play for Team USA over Cameroon or France or whatever it is. And I think there could be real reasons behind that, as we've talked about on the show. It's just one of those things where it's like, nobody wants to hear it from you anymore.
It's
just stop.
Every freaking time he opens his mouth, he's got to take credit for something that really doesn't relate to him at all. I'm sure he had a conversation with Joel like, hey, this would be great for you. I think it would mean a lot to you. I think you can learn a lot, yada, yada. I'm sure that happened. It doesn't matter. The story's not about you, Doc.
Nope.
This has nothing to do. Stop redirecting it back to yourself. It's just, and Kyle's right. Like, this one individual instance isn't all that inflammatory. But boy, it's every time he opens his mouth. It's aggravating. It's just aggravating.
And that's the thing. It's just every time something happens. I was going to ask, who's worse, him or LeBron? Because you know how LeBron is. The joke is always LeBron always
is
knew.
funny.
And that's what I was
Maybe
going.
I just like LeBron.
LeBron is fun. Even if you don't like LeBron, it's just funny. It's good comedy there when it comes to him. But when it is Glenn Rivers, he's always, and unless it was asked directly to him, did you encourage him while you were coaching to play for Team USA? You don't say it. You just let it be what it is. You just let it happen and say how proud of you are of him. You talk about what he did differently to help the team win. All of that. But don't put, I pushed him. Yeah. Just like when they were the top seed in the Eastern Conference, top two. Yeah, I am the reason that happened, or I am the reason why Tyrese Maxey has turned into this all-star level player that he is, because I eventually saw what he did in Game 6 against the Atlanta Hawks, even though you didn't play him in Game 7 as much. I saw it. And that's the problem. It's just more of I with Glenn than just letting it be out there. Talk about it behind the scenes. Don't say it out there in public.
I think Ron in the chat has a perfect description of it. He has the craziest case of main character syndrome. Like, it's always about him. It's just got to be. I think he probably feels like he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, and he fights for it every freaking chance he gets.
And
which
it's
is crazy
crazy
because he's like, what, top 13 coach?
He's a Hall of Famer because of the coaching. Yes.
Yeah, and he was in the top 15 in the NBA 75, right? Like, he's gotten a ton of I would argue,
He got
way
it for the
more than
coaching.
respect than he should. But
Right?
yeah.
I mean, the other thing that's weird about it too, normally you think of the type of player that he was and think like that's normally a guy who like wants to democratize credit, right? Like, you're a point guard, you're running the team, you're playing with, at the time, his best teammate was Dominique Wilkins. He's the play finisher. He's the guy who does the flashy dunks and look, Doc was a great athlete in his own right. That's why he got the nickname that he did back in the day. He was a good player in his own right. So I'm not trying to take away from him, but the nature of how he played and the position he played at the time was to like, you're setting other people up. You're trying to make other people look good. And as the coach, that is essentially the same thing, right? It's why a lot of ex-point guards immediately transition into coaching and why they're given chances earlier than maybe some guys in other positions, because they're brought up as players in a way to like, all right, what do I need to do to make this guy's life easier? What can I do so that I can lift up the whole team? And so often it gets boiled down to like, everything I do is right and everything that went wrong was not my fault, or, well, you got to understand this. And sometimes you just got to say like, great for him, great for Joel,
Exactly.
or just like, it was my fault about this. Like, the deflection for the bigger deal stuff, like the 3-1 blown leads, is why he doesn't get any leeway on something like this, where it was like a 1-2 sentence throwaway comment that I'm sure he didn't think of enough about. But it shows you what people think of him at this point, that it turns immediately into, God, this fucking guy Doc again. I can't stand him.
Yep. Man, it's unbelievable. Real Time with Prince Blue. Real Time jumps in and says, Doc Rivers told LeBron James to read Malcolm X.
My favorite LeBron meme, honestly, is the LeBron just on the first page of a book.
Always.
It's just like 4 different books, him just.
Yep.
And I have no idea what LeBron actually has read or does read, so I'm not casting any aspersions. It's just very funny that what he used to say, it was like 0 dark 6 was what he would say. He's like, no social media, no nothing during the playoffs. So he would just read. And every time it's just like it's like I think of that SpongeBob meme too, where he's been working on writing something and the whole time it looks like he's working really hard. And then it just says with a really fancy T.
That's how I am with writing.
That is me every time I sit down to write an article. That's why I understand that.
That's me with the writing. And that is certainly Glenn Rivers and LeBron James in this particular case.
I give a lot more leeway to LeBron.
Because he's funny. He's a character at this point with that stuff, where Glenn he really believes this. And he wants to let everybody know that he told Joel Embiid to play for Team USA. Well, good for him, because guess what? Joel got a big,
gold medal,
experience, and he's going to take part of that Eiffel Tower and hand it to you now, since he won that gold medal, since you pushed him across the line. I think most Sixer fans would prefer to raise the banner for Quincy Pondexter than Doc Rivers at this point for the pairing of Paul George and Joel Embiid.
# thank you, Quincy.
Yes, not to thank you to Doc. Real Time with Prince Blue with another super chat. Says, Derek, what part of Kerr's scheme from the Olympics can help Joel Embiid?
It's a good question. I think a lot of people would say that they like Joe on the low block a lot because Kerr put him down there.
It was one that I did mention, just to see a little bit more of that, even though he leads the league in post touches as it is.
I'm not necessarily a ramp Joe's post touches kind of guy. I think he has a pretty good mix, and I think he's very effective from the middle of the floor. And I do think it's easier for him to read double teams. I'm going to go back to what we said the other day. It's just utilizing him off ball to free up shooters. I think that's the main thing for me.
I think Now, what they played at the Olympics, certainly not 1-to-1 what they play in Golden State. I think Steve Kerr's basic beliefs are motion and movement, right? And I think what we saw, if we're taking from Kerr specifically in the Olympics, is exactly that, right? You want to get Joel in different positions, put him on the move. Sometimes, and we've seen him shoot from the corner a fair amount over the years, but not on any kind of regular basis.
Most of his threes come top of the game.
It's mostly above the break, and so maybe you're moving him to the corner some more and using him as a weapon there. And so to me, that's one of the big things I want to see this season. We talked about it end of last year. I would like to see Joel's 3-point volume go up, and I think if you put him in that corner spot a little more, yes, you're taking him away from the rim. Yes, you're maybe taking away from some rebounding opportunities, but that's given you some wing guard, pick and roll, pick and pop combinations with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, and you can experiment with that a little bit. And mostly what I want to see from Joel is just tapping into the full skill set, right? Like I think people often put him in boxes and say, well, this is what he can do. This is what he's good at. And obviously he's got his favorite areas of the floor. He loves that nail. He doesn't love to post up as much. Like that's, I'm not going to say he doesn't like it. He clearly likes getting the ball. And so if he's going to get a mismatch, he'll post up, draw fouls, and dunk on people. I just would like to see the full assortment of skills that I think he can bring to the table. Because a lot of times when people say, well, he can't do this or he's not capable of that, if you give him the opportunity, he's shown, yes, he actually can do that on at least a semi-regular basis. The greatest example was, well, he's not a pick and roll big. Well, you play him with Harden, and those two were basically automatic scoring in that pick and roll. And now we've seen him get to there with Tyrese Maxey, throwing those pocket passes. They worked on that last summer. It directly translated into games at this level. So I want to see Joel in less of a give him the ball over and over again to score 30 points and more of the, yes, we're going to rely on you. Yes, you're the number one option, but you also are going to be used just to shake people free for open threes. You're going to be in on more duck-in opportunities. We're going to force more switches and do things like that. That's the ideal for Joel, is to get to that level where teams can't key on one or two things because they're running different stuff every time down the floor.
So just to kind of clarify to my post touches thing and the deeper positioning that I would like to see a little bit more of, when we watched him at the showcase, one of the things we know that he struggled with going into that game, we watched him pregame take those jump hooks. And he always struggles on the jump hooks. He has such a soft touch. He has a good flick of his wrist with how he shoots the basketball, the layup package, everything. For whatever reason, he struggles with the simple jump hook that we see so many times that's automatic for a lot of bigs, even some of those, let's just say power forwards, if you will, that have to play with their back to the basket a little bit more and have that touch. That's the only thing that because to me, it takes away from him having to get so physical of what he already does great and can just simply step away just a tad bit away from the rim with the deep post touch, turn, and just jump hook instead of having to, we know he's going to get foul calls in his favor, but in preserving his energy level, his body, taking some beatings from time to time. And even when the double team does show, when it does come over and he's already turned and now he's just simply shooting over his left shoulder, that's an easy two for me. And that's the only reason I said this post touches, just to kind of clarify more with that jump hook that we know he struggled with so much in the past, because we saw it a few times as the tournament went along, the Olympics went along, and he started making them. And that's something I think that could be beneficial to him and the Sixers with that type. And if he's a willing passer, when that double team does come over and he's already in that motion of getting ready to shoot it, that's nothing but somebody cuts, bam, right there, you just drop it off all in one motion of having that as now a weapon against the defense. So just wanted to clarify my point on the post touch and what it looks like for me. And I just wanted to make sure I said that part. So,
no, I don't think, certainly not Derek and I, and I'm sure most of the audience, none of us are looking at you like you're like a rockhead. Like, oh, just throw it in the post every possession kind of thing. Certainly.
I called it a layup from his 15-foot elbow jumper. Yes. That's a layup for him.
I completely understand where you're coming. To me, the key for him in the post, I think, is he's got to mix speeds a lot more. I want to see, again, we talked about playing with speed a lot in the Olympics. You can't go speed moves every time, right? Because if defense is key on that, then if they send it, like let's say you have the defender on your left hip, right? If you're always going baseline, if a second defender comes and you're spinning quick and you're going baseline, they're going to draw a lot of charges or they're going to force a lot of turnovers just hitting you there. So it can't just be every single touch you get on the block is speed, 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 speed every time. But if you throw that at people, if you make them feel unsettled, uncertain, if they don't know, hey, we can throw a double now, and they have to think about, all right, when does it come? What's the timing? He's not just going to sit here and back me down for 4 to 8 seconds and try to shoot a jumper. Sometimes it's going to be one dribble, one step, boom, layup, dunk, foul, whatever it might be. And so that I think is really the final level for him as a post player, because he can make the reads cross court. Obviously, he's so tall that he can see over the defense. He's good on the strong side, DHOs, doing all that stuff. It's mixing up the way he attacks enough that the defense does not ever feel comfortable when he's in the post. That, I think, is going to be the difference between where he is now, which, again, he's very good in an area where most of the league is bad at post offense. If he can mix in more speed and just keep defenders on their heels just a little bit more, and frankly, as we saw in the Olympics, don't worry about getting fouls. Like, just go to the rim and the fouls will come. I think that takes him from where he's at now, which is very, very good, to an even higher level on offense.
Yeah, real fast. I was always big on Joel not taking more than 3 threes unless, of course, you just get a hot hand and you get rolling, you keep shooting. You mentioned take the volume up a little bit higher.
I would, if he could shoot 5 or 6 a game, I'd be thrilled.
Okay.
So I would take double what I think on high volume, he could shoot 38, 39, maybe even 40%. I don't think he wants to do that in his heart of hearts. I don't think he'll be used in that way. But I do think getting in that habit where there will be games where Maxey is the guy or Paul George is super hot and you're running the offense through him. And in those moments, you need Joel to do one of two things. Either he's got to be an absolute force on the glass, which a lot of us would love that, but maybe is not, based on his track record, not realistic for him to be that type of guy. Or he needs to be an elite floor spacer that just the defender cannot leave him, and that keeps the floor open for whether it's Paul, whether it's Tyrese, or maybe it's both guys going at once. So I want him to be used to that when those moments come against the good teams and in the playoffs. I don't think he's ever going to quite get there, right, to that type of number. But I would love this. I just want to see what it looks like if he shoots a ton of threes.
Well, especially, earlier in his career, you were like, all right, he's got really good form on the jumper, but it's not going in. He's shooting low 30s every year. 3 of the last 4 years, he's been at 37, 38%. And those shots.
And the free throw numbers are great.
Yeah.
So.
And those shots that he's taking, like those threes are there every trip down the floor.
Yeah.
So asking him to get up, 5 or 6, you're not even really changing the difficulty of the shot. You're just asking him to increase the volume. I think he can probably end up shooting 37, 38% on 5 or 6 per game. And if he can do that, then I'm with Kyle. I wouldn't necessarily say that those should come away from the post touches. They would probably come a little more away from the mid-range jumpers.
Yeah.
But still, I think there's ways to ramp up both of those, quite frankly. I think the post is a little bit selective. It's when you have the right matchup. It's when you have the right team that's not going to double as aggressively as some do. And there, ramp it up. But otherwise, I like a pretty diverse shot diet from Joe.
All right.
We know he's got the skill and the talent to dominate from almost any area of the floor.
Not even a question.
When I throw that number out there, 5 or 6, I understand that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I just think there should at least be some games where it's like, this is just a volume shooting game for Joel.
And that was
three.
always my thing.
Yeah.
3, but if you got it going, do your thing, man, because I have no problem with you taking a shot because I know you can make the shot. No problem at all. The one that really stands out in the Olympics was one above the break when Drew Holiday was out there on the floor with him, and Drew had a behind-the-back bounce pass to him, top of the key, and he knocked it down. And those are the types that we saw from James Harden, and we've seen it from Tyrese Maxey. You know that Paul George can do the exact same thing in that spot, playing off of one another. And the corner three-point part, that would be very interesting to see. Now that he did that, going to the corner for Steve Kerr, to the question of real time, if that's incorporated into what Nick Nurse wants to do with Joel Embiid. Before we go and before we get to our roll call, Bree put together a couple of, I didn't tell you guys, just wanted a couple of trivia questions she wanted to throw out there.
Oh, no.
A little wrinkle we're going to start putting at the end of the show in the summer to kind of see where people are. So, Bree, you want to start off with the first trivia question here at the end of the show.
Just so you guys know, you only get one guess, and if it's wrong, you're out.
Okay.
So there's
out
6
for the
clues.
day or out for the rest of the off season?
Out for the rest of that round for that question. There's going to be 6 clues, and they'll come out one at a time.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay. Let's see what we have here.
All right. I was born in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
Clue 2. I played 11 of my 15 seasons with the Sixers.
Huh. People loving Bree in the chat, as we all do.
I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018.
Well, that's got narrowed down.
Oh.
Should I go with clue 4?
I need clue 4.
All right. I am the Sixers' all-time leader in both assists.
Ding.
What is it? Or who is it, I should say.
Mo Cheeks.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Great one.
I thought that was him.
I
but
honestly didn't know he was from Chicago.
Yeah, I knew he was from Chicago, but it didn't click for me. My dad used to make me watch Mo Cheeks when I was younger, since I was always going to be a small guard. So, yeah, my guy.
The fourth one gave it away.
Yeah, no doubt. You got one more? You want to throw one more in?
Yeah, I got another one.
I will say, I think everyone in the chat, I don't know if they've been listening to the show for the last half an hour or so. It's been all Doc Rivers.
They've been on fire. They've been on fire right now. Question 2 from Bree. All right, let's see what we have here. Charlotte, North Carolina.
You could read it, Devon, if you want.
No, please, you do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I already have someone in my head, but I'm not sure it's them.
I started my career in '74 with the Nuggets in the ABA.
You want the bell?
I'm going to go.
Kyle got the bell.
Who do you think it is?
Bobby Jones?
Yep.
Great one. So, a new wrinkle for the end
Minister
of the show.
of
Look at that.
Defense.
Look at the graphic there Bree put together and had Bobby Jones up there on the screen boxing somebody out because you know he's getting that rebound. He out hustles everybody. So, a little
And he's locking them up, too.
No, you don't know what. I don't even know, but me and Bree just kind of snuck this one in there. End of the show. Let's try some new stuff. We have some more different things, not just trivia, that Bree has put together for the end of the show as we go along in the summer. So there you have it for the folks out there, all of you locked in the chat, tearing it up in the chat we see, and of course for Derek and Kyle. It's time for our roll call, folks.
Another
as
beautiful
we close down
graphic
the
coming,
show.
probably.
Oh, yeah, no
question
doubt.
mark?
No, no question mark.
Is. The roll call. Thank you to everybody for coming through once again today. Thank you to my girl, Winona.
Thank
you to Money Mar. Thank you to Eugene Ross. Thank you to Darkness.
Whoa.
Thank you to Jay, Martian Lynch.
What up, Jay?
Real Time with Prince Blue threw a couple super chats at us today.
Thank you so much.
to Real Time. I actually don't know whether to call you Real Time or Prince Blue. Maybe we'll just call you
Real Time.
Call you the whole thing. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to MBD.
I haven't seen MBD in a while.
BDBF. I think I added a letter, but we'll pretend I didn't. Thank you to Rick Morse. Thank you to Mr. Sandman. Thank you to AA Ron. Thank you to Provolone John.
We see you in there, Aaron.
Thank you to Jess with the Purple Heart. Thank you to Randy Rubart.
Jess. Our good buddy Randy.
Oh, thank you to I Gavini. Thank you to my guy Will.
Willie.
Thank you to John Holden. It looks like who said Chad Godner earlier for your Palm Pilot and your belt clip, I guess. Thank you to You Better Love Somebody. JJ's on home.
Love somebody.
Thank you to Slade, Elaine Bruno.
Oh, Slade, what's going on? Theme music, everybody.
Thank you to each and every one of you for coming through today. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. If you hit the thumbs up button, we will once again be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And maybe there will be a new Papa Shot record in the PHLY offices. Thank you to Bree. We will see you tomorrow.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.